Welcome to American Pulse. Our topic today is Egyptian tourism, to be or not to be. Today I have three of the most experts in global tourism. I'd like to introduce my guest. Guest number one is Mr. Midhat Sergani. Hi.
Hi.
Mr. Midhat is an Egyptian American. He's the president of Right Travel, and he's been focusing on travel to Egypt. My next guest is Ms. Brenda De Jesus. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ms. De Jesus actually is the president of mainly Spain. She's been working for tourism for over 20 years, and she has strong affinity for technology, adding value and expanding markets. She's been very successful in various branches in travel industry, international tour operation, sales, training, marketing, product development. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Ms. Brenda, president of MKG Travel, and she has a lot of experience in executive experience in international marketing. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I would like to first of all thank you all for coming to my show tonight, and I want to start by the fact that we all love Egypt and we love tourism, and we know that there are many things has been happening over the last 4 years. I have three of the most expert people here, 20 years at least in tourism each, so I have 60 years of experience in tourism right here. I will start with Mr. Sergani. Mr. Sergani, Egypt has always relied on tourism for economical reasons and for touristic reasons. How do you see that happening and being affected in the last 4 years?
Well, since the revolution took place in 2011, we encountered a lot of declining on people who would like to go to Egypt. And of course that affected most of the company and tour operator over there that we deal with. We have friends, family, and some relative as well working in the field, and they all were affected because of the revolution and the lack of business coming from all over the world, not just the U.S., to Egypt. We hope that will change. We started to see some change now. People has hope over there with the new management and the new government in Egypt. And we start to see also people calling and inquiring about next winter, like when is your tours will start, and is it safe to go, which is one of the main questions we receive. And we start, of course, to let them know that yes, tours will start again and it's safe to go back to Egypt.
Let me take you a step back and tell me about tourism in Egypt before the revolutions. How was your experience and how the market was able to absorb the many tourists that used to come to Egypt?
Well, let's take 2010, the last year before the revolution. I think our guest also might agree with me. It was one of the best years for tourism in Egypt.
2010?
2010. The number of inquiries and reservation was skyrocket. More than 2009 or 8, and personally I encountered in my business 100% increase between 2008 and 2010.
Do you attribute this to anything in specific, like something happened in Egypt 2010, or was it a build of events?
It was a build of events, and also the fact that Egypt was very quiet without any problem or negative news for probably 2 or 3 years. That's built for people to start to call and inquire and wanted to go in FIT and group tours. And it was the glory of tourism in Egypt 2010.
So you think stability was a big thing?
It was the main concern. Okay. Stability definitely brings people back to any tourist attraction.
Okay. Ms. De Jesus, from your perspective, I would like to know what are the stumbling blocks to Egypt for people to go there for tourism as much as they used to go in the past?
My experience has been that it really comes out of lack of presence. I mean, aside from what happens or doesn't happen in the news, these things are cyclical, and we all understand that they can be sensationalized. But given the stability, once things stabilize, I think that the country needs to invest in marketing, invest in a real campaign, a very strong campaign that will help build interest in the destination.
So you think part of the problem is that the Egyptian tourism could not be sold on a level where it should be?
Yes. I think it cannot be sold on the level that it should be because of the lack of marketing. The lack of marketing has sort of created in this market, out of sight is out of mind. So once you disappear, and really the marketing I haven't seen Egypt being marketed seriously the way that it was in 2008, 2009, 2010, where you had this build. That has disappeared, and I think that is what is lacking and what needs to be done in order to lift again the interest in the destination.
And there's another part to that too, and that's perception. The perception of instability and danger has worked against Egypt. We can't control the media, but what we can do is present the positive picture. You know, I quote the new Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sami Shukri, who said, it's all about perception. He said that in a speech just last week. And I would have to underline that.
So you think it's all in the mind? People know that there should not be problems, and that's why we have to explain to people that Egypt is more stable now, there's no problems, you can come in, you'll enjoy the time, you'll enjoy the visit.
As Brenda said, they need to get a message out. There has to be a positive message that comes out about Egypt. And Egypt has the perfect opportunity now with the new president and all the changes.
Great. Brenda, based on your experience in tourism in general globally, what do you know about Egypt? What does Egypt have other countries don't have?
Well, of course, we all know about the wonders of the world, the pyramids and the lighthouse that used to be in Alexandria and so forth. It's a very rich country. Again, I don't think that it's been fully marketed. I think that we tend to think of Egypt as the pyramids, the Sphinx, and Nile cruises. And there is so much more and so many more markets that could be tapped. For example, historians and people in the service are interested to see El Alamein. I rarely hear anything about that, but I've had people in the past ask me about going there. Also, Holy Land tours, following the paths of the Holy Family when they were escaping Herod. You can build a tour around that. There are a lot of different markets that could be reached.
How about cultural tourism? Do you think that can play a big role in Egypt?
Absolutely. Look at how many countries in the world have a history that goes back so many thousands of years with such an impact on the whole region.
Sure. Mr. Surgani, being an American Egyptian yourself, do you think it's safe for Americans and for other foreigners to Egypt to come and visit Egypt at this point?
Very safe. I personally spent 2 months in Egypt, June to August of last year. My wife just returned from Egypt 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. It's very safe because you can exercise your day-to-day life over there during daytime, and at night, as usual, you can socialize with friends and family, still go to coffee shop. Again, in the morning, we take some tourists that we had like a fan trip for just to visit the highlights of Egypt, as Brenda was mentioning, the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx. And there's too many. I don't want to just go into details, but there's too many sites to see. And I can quote you some of the words of the people that came from Egypt, not just recently, but during the last 3 years after the revolution.
Okay.
Those few who did not or were not affected by the media, and they decided to go. all of their codes, which we had in video, by the way, it's fantastic, it's unbelievable, it's very safe. We have no idea what we are reading in the media outside.
I was about to say, so what do we hear in the news? I mean, we hear in the news they're killing, there's this, there's that. Is it really true that it's not safe to walk in the streets? I personally don't think so. I think sometimes there's some sort of exaggeration to the facts.
Well, we have to say something clear is, of course, when there is a revolution in any country, or if you read about any revolution in the history, there is always downside of it, which is the country is not 100% stable. There is the level of the normal crime maybe is a little bit higher. Put on that they emphasize about it in the news, so it's make it like, oh my God, it's not safe to go there. But in reality, the level of security is very high, especially around the tourists. The tourist places is very well secured. And this is even before the revolution. If you recall, always whenever there is American passenger, either just two passengers in a private car, they have an armed guard. This is a regulation of the Egyptian government since before the revolution.
Oh.
So it's very safe.
That's true. Mr. Seuss, have you done anything actively to recruit tourists to go to Egypt?
Yes, actually, one of the companies that I worked for, we launched Egypt probably a year before I left, and it was a successful launch. There was a lot of interest in not just the sites, which the sites, there's a plethora of things to see, but also the culture, the fact that Egypt is an open society in that they're very welcoming and they're very warm, and so this was all very positive for Americans and continues to be. Americans really like to experience culture, and Egypt is a perfect place for that, and for that reason it had great success.
I would say that Egypt is in everybody's bucket list to travel.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of time. When is the right time to go? And the tour operator or the Egyptian Tourist Authority, it is our role to create the right time for the people. And by creating the right time, the offer, the good deal, because everybody's after the good deal nowadays. Even in our day-to-day life, if you want to buy a tie or a suit, you're looking for a deal. You ask your wife, do you have coupon or something, so I can go buy my...
You want to save something.
Exactly. So nowadays...
With this kind of economy, everybody would like to save anything.
So we have to actually introduce that to the traveler, because everybody want to go to Egypt. But when I say everybody, I would say at least 80 to 90% of Americans would like to go to Egypt at one time, if they have the chance.
Do you think the Egyptian travel agents and the Egyptian authority has been reluctant in pursuing campaigns to get things done? They feel like, oh, we have it all, we have the nice monuments, we have the civilization, so, whenever they want to come, they'll come at their convenience?
Well, I think it's been more of a hesitance. Hesitance, sort of, we're not sure if the time is right. But the important thing to be positive, to take a positive, proactive attitude is to say, because of the revolution, because we have a new administration, this is an exciting time for Americans to go, because just like the United States was a new country born on,
especially we have a new site, Tahrir Square is the new site of tourism. Everybody wants to go
there. So, I think it's a really, taking a spin maybe perhaps now on the new administration is a perfect time for the administration, for the government, to align themselves with not just tour operators, but with hotels, with, infrastructures like, conference offices and things like that will bring in the Americans and bring in people from the entire world to see how great it is.
Brenda, do you have any suggestions for...
Oh, do I? I'm glad you asked. I actually prepared this is an overview of a marketing campaign. I'm going to be giving Consul Hegazi of the Egyptian Tourist Authority later today.
Yes, we'll have it in the next episode.
I know this will work, but Egypt has to do it. And what is it? It's a marketing campaign. And it starts with a documentary of Egypt. It needs to be made now.
I think there's one already circulating.
There's lots of them made, but we need to have one made now. The ones that are circulating happened long before the revolution. That doesn't convince anyone. When you show people those documentaries, they say, yes, but what's happening now?
Yeah.
If you want to attract American audiences, American tourists, you have to have a documentary made by an American speaking to Americans. And not just a Nile cruise, the Sphinx and the pyramids.
There's a lot.
You need to go off.
Safari, the
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Just hanging out downtown,
Yeah.
mingling with the people.
Cooking,
Yeah.
just...
Cooking classes.
Yeah, I mean...
Salute on the Nile in Cairo.
Yeah,
Coffee shop, El Kishawi, that's how many hundred years old.
Walking by the Nile River at night.
Absolutely.
It's little things, but when you put all of them together, you have the perfect...
It's a whole package, right?
perfect getaway.
Once that's made, and you have that, we have the technology now to blast that to travel agencies across this country, and that should be followed up even further by a marketing campaign.
You think, who do you think should be responsible for this marketing campaign?
Well, the Egyptian government needs to underwrite this. They need to sponsor it. Once that is done, you will see the momentum from travel agencies and so forth. But I think it is critical to take this documentary to the large metropolitan areas in this country, give a presentation, and here comes another part of the investment on the part of the Egyptian government. In each location where you've made these presentations, have a lottery, give away a trip to a travel agent and a guest. These can be combined into a group trip later. But sending those people to Egypt, the Egypt of today, the Egypt with a new president and a new outlook, will yield all kinds of rewards, because those travel agents will come back, and now not only are they enthused about the country, but when their customers ask them, but what's it like, they can tell them they've been there. But the government must sponsor this.
They have to take the initiative.
Absolutely.
Because the tour operator will follow right after if they start.
So you think the government has to take the initiative?
It is very high risk for me as a tour operator right now to invest in advertising for Egypt, and the perception, going back to your word, is not that great in the street. So I really need someone that has the power, has the financial capability to start, and I will follow through.
I think we have a good momentum nowadays, because I learned a couple of days ago that there are a few warnings were lifted from Egypt, from Europe and America, right? So, you know, it's easier now to use the momentum and try to imply all these ideas and try.
It's the right time to start the marketing campaign.
And I think it's important because it's to their interest to take the initiative, because then they control the message. And that's critical. You want it to be a unified message, a message that is going to bring positive results. So it's very easy if the government is controlling the overall message, for everyone else to kind of fall in line and create like a spoke effect, where everyone sort of is an arm of that one message.
I have a tricky question for you, Misty. So you think stability comes first and then we should imply tourism, or they go hand to hand?
They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. I mean, there are plenty of destinations in the world that have had some sort of instability, that have still maintained a small level of tourism, so that as things progress, tourism progressed.
And I think also tourism will force the country to be stable somehow, because you want to have public safety, you want to have, easiness of getting things done, tourists will be walking around the country, mingling with different people?
Well, you said yourself in the beginning, in the opening of this, that, tourism is such an important part of the economy. And really, when people just really start to see tourism once again bringing such an important piece of the overall GDP into the country, certainly there will be a response. And so these things sort of have to happen hand in hand. But I really firmly believe that my experience has not just been with Egypt, but in other developing countries, that the government really has to kind of take the lead and give people permission to do the rest. The one thing that I think Americans always like is to be able to have permission to go to these areas that are considered sort of not so popular at the time. And once you give them a deal, and some sort of permission, some sort of reason to tie into, I don't see it failing. I just see it growing to the levels that were at 2010 and beyond.
We'll talk more about this right after the break. Welcome back to American Pulse. So, previously we were talking about the role of the Egyptian government in promoting tourism. So I would like to ask Brenda about your insight about the role of the Egyptian government.
Well, I think we've all said that the Egyptian government needs to be behind this marketing. As Brunilda and Medhat said, to give a consistent message. Now, something like this, we hear all the time about the problem with Egyptian tourism since the revolution. Something like this changes the vector of that, gets it back on the road. I think it's critical that the government sponsor it as soon as possible in conjunction with American travel experts. I know I'd be happy to work on it. I've already developed a plan. And
Can you talk about your plan for a few minutes?
I'd be happy to. Part of it, of course, involves the creation of a documentary, and the documentary should start with words something like this: welcome to Egypt. Egypt has a new president, a new outlook on life, and now we're going to travel around the country and show you what we have. The other part of it that is really, really crucial as a follow-up that should be done in conjunction with the release of the documentary is the promotion on a government level, which we used to have. We used to see this consistent message, promotions about Egypt with catchy logos and so forth that were consistent throughout. That needs to happen. And the outreach. Egypt's new president said, the only thing I can give you is work. Well, I think that was brilliant, and I think this falls under that category. The way to get this going again is work, and that means providing the documentary, going to the large metropolitan areas in this country, presenting it, getting people involved, getting the people who can make a difference to the level of tourism involved. And there's lots of other means that go along with that, like social media.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I think that social media is very important.
Now everything is very connected, right?
It's critical. It's important. And it's not as expensive as people think. So to get people engaged would be an investment. But certainly, again, if you have someone spearheading the message, it would be fantastic. And to get people engaged in social media creates a buzz that gets people moving. Certainly other destinations have worked with that style, and it has had some success, and that way you're reaching not just the traditional U.S. traveler, but maybe the non-traditional traveler that might venture and do something fun, and Egypt is certainly fun.
There is also the young people in the United States which is more engaged in the social media. And we notice when we run some advertising on other destinations, not in Egypt, especially for those folks that's 20 or 30s, If you have a very short vacation, like 4 nights with round-trip airfare to one city with a very reasonable price, the demand is very high. And the next thing you know, when those people come back and talk about their trip to their friends and families and co-workers, then you don't have to resell this short vacation again.
It's an investment that keeps on giving.
It does.
Do you think airfare has been an issue to Egypt lately?
It had been, always.
It's always
I
had
started to sell Egypt.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree on that one because...
So you don't think it's an issue?
No, because airfare to anywhere outside the United States is expensive. And we could say the same thing about, Greece, Turkey, Israel, Dubai.
What's your experience with Dubai?
That is an experience that's been really interesting. The government there took an initiative and they decided to have a message. Their message was, we're new, we're exciting, they had a sort of a myriad of...
And they made it.
Very well.
But it was a very consistent campaign over years. These things took time, they took effort, and there was not this sort of need for immediate satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
There was a clear understanding that this market, we're talking about this market specifically, was going to take an effort. And I think now, after 4 or 5 years, they're on the map.
And they have a fraction of what Egypt has to offer.
For example, the World Cup, if you notice in most of the games, you can see
everybody's on the beach.
Everyone's there. It's all over the stadium.
Yes,
it's all.
And that's getting the message. And we didn't stop, as you mentioned, we continue.
Right.
They've been putting the name out there. They've been doing a lot of things. Being an Egyptian American yourself, Mr. Segani, have you ever thought of shouldering or helping in forming an Egyptian parade or Egyptian festival or Egyptian day where people would wear like Egyptian costumes for fairs and walk in the streets in a way to promote tourism to Egypt?
Actually, this idea in particular was introduced to me before through the mosque that I go for Friday and any other place there. And I noticed that the Dusam parade to deliver certain messages was not about tourism.
Yeah, there's many parades.
Yeah, when they were coming to the Egyptian consulate in New York around voting time.
Yeah. No, I mean parade, not demonstration. Parade where, like Puerto Rican Day, where everybody wears something with the colors of the flag of Puerto Rico, like something to represent the country. Greece Day, St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
Everybody's wearing green. Everybody. It right away. Sometimes I don't look at my calendar. I'm walking in the street. I see people wearing green. Wait a minute! It's today St. Patrick's Day. Right away.
It's flagged right away.
It's flagged right away. So it's an indirect message.
Well, it's a good idea, but keep in mind, when you do that, you are, make publicity for the area the parade is going through, just if it's a city or LA or wherever it is. But Egypt is much, much broad than just marketing in a neighborhood or in a city. Egypt needs, as you mentioned, it's a very rich
Of course. No, I'm just saying it's one of the tools. If everybody does it in different cities, so you have more than one city is doing it.
That's if you have someone who's willing to, to spend and invest in that.
Will you be able to join a group?
Yeah. Of course
if we can organize it through American Pulse?
But I would think if we do that in a video, on a YouTube video, and we start to circulate it faster all over the United States, that would be more effective.
Yeah. It's true, but I'm an old-fashioned person. I like to see things.
But it's another one of these things that needs to be underwritten. I think the instant you have any of these programs underwritten by the government or by concerned donors, contributors, the instant that happens, you have Americans here who are experienced. You have 3 of them in this room. Experienced. I know you keep saying that, but that makes it sound so old.
There's different types of African Americans that like to go to south of Egypt would be interested in participating in the parade. We have people in the music, like the jazz people.
Yeah.
They would like to introduce their music in cooperation with the music in Egypt. So there is too many groups, minor groups, that would be very interested in participating in the parade.
What I was trying to say is you have the manpower and the willingness and the expertise on the part of Americans to certainly work in these programs as soon as they're underwritten.
We're trying to set up a cultural center through American Pulse for Egypt, and I was wondering if any of you guys is willing to volunteer some of your time to help out in the tourism section.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for being with me in the show, and I would like to see you again, and hopefully next year when we talk about tourism, we'll talk about how we make it bigger and bigger and bigger.
We'll send you postcards from Egypt.
All right, that would be
That
great.
would be good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
meeting you. Bye-bye. Welcome back to our episode about Egyptian tourism, to be or not to be. My guest today is Mr. John Kalados, and he is the Vice President of Homeric Tours. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Mr. Kalados, obviously you have a Greek background from the name, and I've been to Greece many times and I love it. What do you know about Egypt, and what's your encounter in recruiting people to go to Egypt?
Well, I've been to Egypt myself 6 times now. I can say also that my brother is married to an Egyptian woman.
Oh, wow.
As well. I love the country very much. And in terms of tourism, it's a vital part of our destinations that we sell to overseas. It's a product that is very well valued among the American market. We find that our counterparts in Egypt are very, very hospitable, very, very welcoming to the American clientele from what we see. And we haven't heard one bad thing about Egypt when our clients return from Egypt.
Sure. How long have you been serving the Egyptian tourism?
We've been selling Egypt as a destination now for close to 30 years. We're actually one of the early pioneers, being non-Egyptian, to sell Egypt as a destination in the United States.
That's been a long time. I'm sure there should be things that you've noticed over the years, and especially the last 4 years. Do you see any drop in?
Well, certainly there was a drop in tourism with the unrest that went on in Egypt. This year, we've actually seen progress. We've seen bookings coming in to go to Egypt.
When did that start? Do you think before or after the election? So
after the election.
After the
before
absolutely. The election, it was still.
Yeah, people were still kind of waiting and seeing. We're very hopeful for next year. Next year, we've already got a number of groups already going, which is early historically to book a group for over a 12-month period in advance. So that gives us a hopeful sign that Egypt is coming back as a destination for the American market.
Where did the tourists go at the time of unrest in the Middle East, where Egypt was not an option for them? Do you think tourism has shifted to another country, another place?
No, it did. It absolutely did. That's kind of difficult to say. Some went to Israel, some went to Greece, some went to Italy, some went to Turkey. It's really hard to say.
What is so special about Egypt that would never die, you think?
Oh, the history. The history, the old world history, the pyramids, the Sphinx. I mean, there's nothing like it in the world. I mean, the history of Egypt is phenomenal.
Do you think the Egyptian government should do anything proactively to promote
I do.
tourism?
I do. I think right now, to help kickstart it further along, what they need to do is to, everything's about perception. A lot of people have put things on pause. They hit the pause button, so to speak.
It's amazing that we're talking in the previous with my previous guest about the same thing, perception.
Is that right? Okay.
It's really something.
It really is. It's everything, quite frankly. And the pause button has been pushed down, let's say, for the American traveler, for the most part, even though it's starting to come back. So what I think that the Tourist Board can do to help hit the play button, so to speak.
Who controls that pause button?
The minds of the individuals, of the people that are traveling. When they see things, they perceive things in a certain way. The news media is really, quite frankly,
huge, right?
It's huge. I mean, that's everything, okay? And that's why I think the Tourist Board can turn around and do things such as, for example, they're having certain movie stars now.
Yeah,
Tom Hanks and all that.
Yeah, and Sharm
They should be advertising that on the TV.
Yes.
Let the people with this perception change their perception, because Egypt is it's always been a fascinating place to visit. It's fine to visit now, but you know, we in the travel community, we're ready to sell Egypt. We are selling Egypt, but we need to change the perception to a certain degree of the traveler themselves.
I want to get to the selling point, but I don't want to get away from perception.
Okay.
What things do you think should be done to change that perception?
Well, like what I just touched on, for example, these famous people that are visiting there.
So that's one.
That should be.
So sending famous people to.
Not only that, but being able to send that out to the media, the TV media, and the radio media.
Okay.
Exactly, it's very important.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get 1, 2, 3.
Right, and that reaches the homes of people, of everyday people. You know. The second thing is on my side of the desk, trade shows, things of that nature. Maybe doing an on-the-road show and promoting Egypt to 6 or 7 or 8 different states.
Have you guys done that?
We do that on our own.
Oh, you do it on your own with no support from
with nobody. We do PowerPoint presentations around the country,
sure.
And we promote all of our destinations, of course, including Egypt. Maybe some billboard ads and things of that nature. Again, remember, perception is everything.
Yes.
So you know, once the people in this country see that it's safe again in their perception to go, they're going to go in droves. Everybody's waiting to go to Egypt.
Well,
trust me on that one.
You touched on a point that was very important. Is do you think it's safe now to go to Egypt?
I think it's safe to go to Egypt. I think the perception is that Egypt is safe. Look, there are certain things going on in other parts of the country that have nothing to do with Egypt, but the perception may be a little too close. But that should finish very shortly. Other than that, I think people are ready. They're ready to go to Egypt. They really are ready to go to Egypt.
Do you think one of the ideas that could be presented to the Egyptian government is that to use 1 or 2 locations, 1 of the 2 sites of the many sites that we have in Egypt, and really secure them so hard and make sure that these are the real touristic attraction for the next few months?
What do you mean by secure?
Like make sure that there's like army guarded.
That's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword, because the perception is going to be, if they need that many soldiers to guard an area, it could be a dangerous place. The perception is, I don't think the perception now is so much that it's dangerous anymore, because the new government is, there's nothing in the media now about Egypt. It's been quite a while.
Nothing bad in the media about Egypt.
Nothing bad is going on.
It's all positive. It's all
just the fact that I have bookings for not only 2014, but even more increased bookings for 2015.
This is amazing.
It's a very positive sign for us in our company, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that is getting that, okay? So that's why I think all continued positive reinforcement by the Tourist Board and by the government through all sorts of media is the best way to go.
What do you think the role of the Egyptian consulate or the office of the Egyptian tourism in New York City would be in this stage?
In this stage, I think just the fact that they can sit there and help the tour operators and just continue to give a positive spin on the destination, which it deserves, quite frankly, is the best way to go. You know, there is no magic pill.
Can they push, or there's no need to push?
Push who?
Push the media, push the advertising, push the marketing.
If they're able to push
gather the agents together, start circulating PowerPoint presentations.
I suggested not too long ago, for example, to just give you an example, and I don't know if he's known in Egypt, Anthony Bourdain, who's on CNN, who travels the world through culinary through the culinary, to tasting the food, but goes in depth of the country and the people. It's a fantastic way of getting somebody like that on board and inviting them over through the tourist board as a guest to go there and to film and to go around to the different areas of Egypt, meet the local people, sit down, have food with them, and talk about the history of Egypt and talk about the beauty of Egypt. This is the way you unpause the pause button through the regular people that are watching TV.
How about sports? I was thinking a lot about sports.
Another great.
If we have like a major worldwide event.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
In Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh
that would be incredible. That would be incredible. And you'll see me on the front line right there. I promise you that.
All right. That would be a very expensive ticket.
That's okay. I've got connections.
All right. Very good. You were talking to me about selling Egypt. How do you do it, besides the PowerPoint presentations?
For us, we have one or two ways. One is through our industry, which is the travel industry, which are things like advertising in trade papers, doing the PowerPoint presentations, and things of that nature. Websites, all of that.
On social media.
Social media, we're big in Facebook and we're big in Twitter. The other part is advertising in the regular papers like the New York Times and things of that nature that reach the general audience, per se. And those are really the only two ways you can really do that.
Did you notice a problem with the airfare going to Egypt? Was that ever a problem to you?
That was never a problem. Egypt Air is a great airline.
Okay.
And they were very, very favorable in their costing. Sure. You know, Delta, of course, was there to compete with them, but that's good.
Yeah,
you know,
competition always comes out with the best.
The more seats and the more non-stop flights, the better.
Sure.
So, no, I didn't really find that as a problem. And if it is a problem, it's a good problem, because it means too many people are going to Egypt, and they can't get enough seats.
No, but I'm talking about not the seats, I'm talking about the pricing.
No, the pricing is fine right now.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think should you, as one of the largest travel agencies, reach out, companies to reach out to the Ministry of Tourism in Egypt and try to coordinate some sort of discounts, coupons?
We've done that, and we have, and we do.
You still do that?
We still do that. Many times our clients will go to Egypt, and they'll get free upgrades in a better room, in a better suite, in a better ship, and things like that. I will say that the ground operation, such as, when I say ground operation, I mean like the hotels, the coaches, the cruise companies. They are more than hospitable to do whatever they can to help and to make the dream of that traveler a remarkably memorable one for them. I can't say enough good things, and that's the truth. Right. That's just the truth.
What's your advice to the Egyptian people or my viewers for my show? What should they do to promote tourism from their end?
The only thing I can tell you that the best thing they can do is just to be friendly and welcome the people when they come to visit. Because that's what the people are going to leave with, those memories. The warmth of the Egyptian people, which are they're very warm people. Yeah. That's all they need to show is their warmth and just being happy that people have come to visit their country because they want to know about their country and their people.
Especially there's a lot of weight of the tourism for the Egyptian economy. There's a lot of need.
I know. I realize that.
There's a lot of people are employed in touristic sites, and a lot of people need a job, so we want to make sure we have enough tourists coming.
And I feel for the people that way. I really do, because we sell Greece also, and that's the same thing what's going on in Greece. Yeah. So we understand those aching pains. As a tour operator, I understand that. But the nicer the people are to the travelers, the faster they're going to come back a second and third time.
It's a message, right?
It's a total message. It's a total message. Message of love, really, when you think about it,
I mean, Egyptians have been always known to be very hospitable.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Kind to
take their shirt off their back for you.
We just want to make sure that they present it enough for tourists to see it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
All right. Very nice to have you in my show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it, Mr. Clayton.
Thank you.
My guest also today is Mr. Mohammed Higazi. Mr. Higazi is the consul for the Egyptian Tourist Authority in New York. Welcome to the show, Mr. Higazi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you.
I have a few questions for you, Mr. Higazi, regarding the Egyptian tourism. Our theme today of the show is Egyptian tourism, to be or not to be. I feel like we are at a very critical stage that we really have to pay attention to what we're doing in order to help the economy and help the tourism to come back to Egypt. So, as that being said, first I'd like to ask you some questions about the history of the tourism in Egypt even before the revolutions. How much of the economy was that representing? The tourism part was representing for the Egyptian economy?
Well, in fact, before the revolution in 2011, we were receiving about 14 million tourists worldwide, from worldwide to Egypt in 2010. And this was the most peak year.
2010. I had my previous guests in the show. They said 2010.
Yeah.
It was.
We never received
Crème de
14
la
million
crème.
before. Yeah.
But why did that happen in 2010? I mean, I always like to know the problems, and I know what happened, and also when good things happen, I'd like to know why. What happened in 2010 differently from 2009, 2008, 2007?
Well, that might be because tourism, it has many factors to boost number of tourists. One of these factors was the stable during these days. We had like 3-4 years, we had nothing in terms of incidents, things like this. Also, we had many of new hotels start to be open in Egypt, as well as we call like fashion. From time to time, you can see some of these destinations jump to in the scene as a fashion of the year. People start to really like to go. Also, we have one of these new products in the Red Sea and South Sinai that's really attracting European. For instance, we have daily charter flight to South Sinai and Hurghada, especially for Russian, and we receive like 2 million Russian tourists visiting Hurghada city and Red Sea. So that's why
they do scuba diving
and scuba diving. So maybe this is one of the really new product. It's like 15 years product only.
Okay.
Before 15 years, we didn't have such
we never
product.
had this.
No resorts. All of this Sharm el-Sheikh city and Hurghada city, it's only 15 to 20 years old. So we start to have new resorts there, 5-star resort, new service, new product in terms of beach and luxury and product that attracting European individual more. So that's why we increased our numbers of tourists worldwide. Mm-hmm. But if we are talking about USA, also one of these factors that the cultural tourism product is usually attract the family more and over 45 years old. So this segment start to be increasing in U.S. market as some of these statistics saying like 40% of U.S. citizen is getting more than 45 years old in 2-3 days. So our products start to meet this segment more, and also the family segment they can enjoy it. Also 2010 we had 3 flights, daily flights. We had Egypt Air flight, we had Delta flight, we were about also to launch intercontinental flight. So this was also giving more facilitation to U.S. tourists to go Egypt more.
All right. You still didn't answer my question. How much of the economical weight the tourism had before? What's the percentage of the economy?
It was like 11.5. The tourism share in the Egyptian economy.
11%?
Yeah, 11%, 11.5%.
How is it nowadays?
Well, as of this year, we received 9 million. So we lose like 5 million tourists.
We received 9 million tourists this year?
Last year,
2013.
So 9 million, so we lost up to half of it. So now it's
And
like...
this is by statistics. These are numbers
Yeah.
from the Ministry of Tourism.
Yeah, that's the official statistics. We received only 9 million all over the world and about 150,000 tourists from USA.
From America. So really there was a big decline from the U.S.
Well, the US, we lost about 50% of them.
50%.
Because 2010, which is our peak year,
Yeah,
we
that was
received 360,000 only.
Okay.
Last year we received only 150.
So basically the U.S. Visitors were never a big portion of the tourists that came to Egypt.
No, we never reached 500,000.
Okay.
We never reached 500,000 from USA market.
Well, then that might be a good indicator that there's a big market that we should target and try to get more people to get in there.
Yeah, it's usually Western Europe. It's our main
Western
market because of charter flight. It's more cheaper and more accessible to Egypt. It's just like a flight for 3 hours.
4 hours.
So it's easy.
And I know that some tourists go many times during the year. Sometimes from Russia they go twice or 3 times a year to Egypt.
Sometimes a monthly also.
Yeah.
Sometimes a monthly.
Wow.
But the cultural product, it's yearly in fact, and you can, and also the distance, you can go like every few months.
Sure. Let me talk, if you could talk to me about the office here in New York. How long ago was it established, and what are the activities of the office, and what are the goals and the targets that you guys have in the near future?
Well, one of our main goals is to make the image of Egypt more updating it and more clear to the tourists.
The perception?
Change the perception, and really, because sometimes people get infected from negative media that focus on some certain incidents that has nothing to do with the whole country. So our main goal is to update them and correct the image for the tourist.
Sure.
And we do that through 2 main factors. The first one is PR campaign that focus on celebrity visit to Egypt. Nowadays, these months, we are hosting Donald King, the boxer promoters. And this is his first time to go Egypt, in fact, and he's going to spend...
Is he excited?
Very excited, and he's going to spend 10 days in Egypt visiting Luxor, Aswan, Hurghada. So we rely...
When is the visit scheduled to be?
He's already now
He's
in
already
Cairo.
there?
This minute he's Cairo. He arrived 2 nights ago.
Do you think there's a program for him to meet with other people there or to do anything?
Yeah, he has a press conference. We arrange him a press conference, and he's going to talk to all media about his experience, and he's going to give us his testimony about Egypt.
Sure.
And he already did this morning, and he said that he really feels safe, and he's very amazed with the Egyptian hospitality.
Yes.
In fact, also we have Tom Hanks. He's making his new movie in Hurghada city in Egypt. This is by the Red Sea, and he spent 2 nights, and he left only yesterday from Hurghada city in Egypt. Also we have Ban Ki-moon, also the General Secretary of UN. He's in Egypt, and he's meeting...
Is he there for a touristic...
no,
therefore I think it's more
political.
Political, right?
But we have VIP.
What's going on in the...
Yeah,
VIP people.
VIP there, and even the U.S. State Foreign Affairs Secretary, Kerry, he's in Cairo also. And by the way, also the U.S. State Department, they already removed the travel alert to Egypt by 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So by the U.S.
And it's also from Europe, I heard.
No, from USA. Some of European countries start to remove the travel warning.
Yes.
And USA also this month, early July 1st, they remove also the travel alert for U.S. citizens.
It's a big sign.
It's big, yeah, of course, it's a big sign and the indicator telling U.S. citizen it's okay to visit Egypt. Yeah, it's safe now, even by the officials.
Sure. How long has your office been in existence?
Our office is more than 20 years, in fact. It's, let's say, Egyptian Tourist Authority, the whole organization, is established 1980. 1980, and our office was there since 1980.
How many offices in the States?
Well, now in the before we had 4 offices, but now we have only one office in New York and another office in Canada.
So, okay. So, you think your role in the office also is to, besides clarifying the image, is to put a plan for the future for travel agencies to come together to try to do some sort of presentations and try to promote the tourism?
Well, in fact, our agenda, we have like 14 trade show, and each trade show we use it to make seminars for tour operators. For instance, we have US2A conference. It's a yearly conference here in the US, and they have like 50 tour operators and about more than 600 suppliers attending this conference, and we usually arrange a seminar for them to address them and update them about the latest Egyptian touristic product and the situation in Egypt. And we do that yearly with USDA. Also, we have many seminars we do with the Vergioso Travel Association and NTA Travel Association and ATC Travel Educational Travel Conference also. Around the year we have many conferences in the US to educate the tour operators, suppliers and buyers.
What do we need to do as Egyptians, American with Egyptian background, American citizens with Egyptian background, to help your office do what you need to do? What do you expect from us who live here in New York City?
The Egyptian American, they are the one who really built the image about Egypt and Egyptians, because when you live here, your daily life scenery in your job, in your school, in your university, you are ambassador, you are talking...
It's the life testimony.
It's the life testimonial. Whatever you do in your life, we benefit from it. It's not only tourism, but the commercial, the whole country. So what we need from you, you do your job in delivering the messages about the real situation in Egypt to your friend. We encourage you to visit Egypt in your vacation, and you spend your vacation in Egypt and come back to tell your experience for your American friend here and how did you really feel it. Will really help your testimony, because you know this is part of social media. And the Egyptian American who are living here, we rely on them to really talk about Egypt to their friend and to deliver our product, tourist product, to them.
One of my friends sent me a message yesterday asking me if it's safe to go to Egypt.
Yes.
And I had to look at the message and I'm like, of course it's safe to go to Egypt. What do you think?
Yes, I can definitely assure that. Me personally, I was in Egypt last May and I spent 2 weeks, and I really enjoy my vacation so much, and I was walking everywhere in the street free, day and night. I didn't feel anything unusual except the media. Even when I was in Cairo, I was watching the media, and I see some things in the media. But
you don't see it in real life? I
don't see it in the street. I just came back from Khan Khalili market, and I came back from Giza pyramids. I was enjoying. But when I see watch TV, I see something different than what I really experienced.
Do you think they exaggerate on certain events?
Yes.
And it has an adverse, a negative effect on the actual image of Egypt?
Yeah, the media is really exaggerate or over-focusing to the negative incident that in Egypt, that make it like every inch and every corner of Egypt has something bad, which is not. Which is
not the case.
Yeah.
But I think it's part of their job is try to brush off anything.
Yeah. But also we have some positive media, in fact,
because
we host some American media who go there, and like Mark Murphy video, He go there and he start to interview some of the American tourists while they are in Egypt, and most of them they really came back with the very positive testimony about Egypt and how they really find it very safe and enjoyable for them.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Hikazi, for coming, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan.